I have friends who work clean because they're like religious or whatever. I'm like, oh, it's just I get paid
Right.
more when I don't talk about my dick for 45 minutes. You know, like it's. If you're asking because you're worried if I'm gonna like get mad if you swear, I'm not at all. Go whatever.
Gotcha. Well, could have gone either way, because some people
Yeah.
they're like, I want it to be squeaky clean. It's like part of my reputation.
No,
And then
it's one of
some
those things
people
where
like
people will
depends.
find like dry bar. My special on there is like the biggest
Hmm.
thing that people know me from, and that is
Hmm.
all just clean. So people
Hmm.
will find me on there and then see me do something else, and they're like, "Oh, you used a bad word." I'm like, "I don't. Yeah, I don't care. I'm 40. Like, I'm an adult." It's so wild to me that people are like so hung up on the language of it.
Isn't
Hmm.
it so weird that adults are like self-censoring themselves sometimes from
Yeah.
just swear words? Like,
It's
why?
even when I do colleges and stuff and they ask me to work clean, I'm like, they're adults, right? Like they're all like 19. They've heard
They've heard
people
it.
say fuck before. It's okay.
Hmm.
They'll
Hmm.
be fine.
Yeah, it should be in the dictionary at this point. I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah,
It's
it is. I think
basic.
it is, right? It's in there the non-dirty definition, I believe, is to strike something with a hammer. We
Wait,
looked it
fuck?
up. I
It
think
means to strike
yeah,
someone
I
with a
think
hammer?
if I remember correctly from when I looked it up in the school library in 4th grade, or at least that might just be the origin of it. Like it might not. I might be misremembering, but I've
Is
been
this like
telling
from the
people that
Norse
for
gods
30
coming?
years. Yeah, it's I don't know, the root word meant that or something.
Interesting. It's like you have some random Danish guy just smacking his hammer on a Saxon's head, and he's like, "Fuck!"
The guy getting hit with the hammer also probably said it.
That's
That would be my response to any hammer contact.
yeah, yeah. But it's interesting with the roots of these words. I know that Nicolas Cage did like this thing
Yeah,
on Netflix
The
um,
where
history
they
of
were
swear
checking the
words.
roots.
the history of swear
Exactly.
Hmm.
words.
Oh,
That
that was
was
a
a
cool one,
weird.
man.
That was a weird little thing that dropped during the pandemic. I didn't know anything about like it's. I used to write for like a couple nerd culture websites where I feel like Nicolas Cage talking about swear words would have been like such a big thing we would have been covering, but I haven't had that job for years, so I'm like so out of the loop. Where that just like popped up on my Netflix feed one day, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I do want to watch Nicolas Cage explain to me why these words mean what they mean and like why people get so mad about them. And it's exactly what that show is. I'm like, surprisingly fun, Nick Cage. Well done.
But yeah, I mean Nick Cage is just the way he just exaggerates things is just amazing as well.
Yeah.
It was just on point for the swear words. So you just needed that.
Hmm.
Yeah, he
Talking
was
about
such a
like how
good pick for hosting that.
yeah, exactly. Explaining how fuck used to mean for, acceptance to have sex with your mate by the king and all of that. It just goes
Yeah.
to reminds me when I was a kid how they used to say fuck stands for fornication under consent of the king.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember hearing that one too.
Bring me way back, bro.
Yeah.
Way back. Speaking of the way back, Glen Tickle, what was your first joke? Do you remember?
That I wrote or like heard.
Hmm. Both. How about?
The first one that I wrote was my wife and I adopted a dog recently. We'd been trying to have one naturally for about a year, and that was like when I decided to start doing open mics. Like I bought a notebook, wrote jokes on the cover, and that was like the first thing that I wrote in it. Uh, I'm trying to think of like because my kids are 10 and 5, and they will like think of
Yeah.
jokes now, and I can't think of any that I thought of when I was like a little kid because that was so long ago, and my brain is terrible. Um,
Yeah.
but I remember, I mean, I've always loved watching comedy. Like I watched the Steve Martin episode of The Muppet Show a lot as a kid because my
Hmm.
grandparents had it on tape, and I love that because it's like the premise of that episode is he's there to be the guest on the show, but Kermit accidentally double books like auditions for new acts. But Steve's like, well, I'm here, so like I'll just audition, and like you already have the job, like just come back next week, and he just keeps coming out and doing different bits. Uh, and my favorite part of the episode is anytime a new comedian is auditioning, Fozzie is getting really nervous that he's going to get like cut from the cast because Kermit's going to find a better comedian. And I related to, even before I started doing comedy as like a 6-year-old, I'm like, I find that very relatable. I'm also worried that my friends are going to find somebody funnier than me, and then they're not going to want to hang out anymore.
So how do you deal with that lack of attention then?
By doing comedy. Like the whole reason I do this is so that people will look at me and listen to what I'm saying. I'm one of 5 kids, so like coming from a big family, like you kind of have to lock into a thing that you are. It was 4 boys and a girl, so I don't know how big the Ninja Turtles were where you guys are, but they each have like a different personality, and it like came around the time where it worked out really well that my 3 brothers and I were like, all right, we clearly understand which Ninja Turtle we are. We'll make our sister be April O'Neil, the reporter. And it's like now anytime there's any group of characters where like there's a smart one, I'm going to be that one. Because like I got stuck being Donatello.
I would have guessed Michelangelo, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
No, that was my brother Mark. He
was
much more into being a party dude than I ever was. But yeah, it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, from a pretty early age, like everyone in my family's telling me I'm the smart one, and I'm like, but I love comedy, but I still have that like ingrained in me that I need people to think that I'm smart. Even though I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm losing it. You know, like I blame my kids. Like I do think I was smart at one point, but I think because so much of my attention at any given time is spent like just thinking like, oh, my kid's all right. Did I forget to put something in their backpack this morning? Like I never have 100% focus on anything and never will again. So it's the things that I really do to like unwind are I drive to most gigs, like even really far ones. Like I just did a gig in Nashville a couple weeks ago, which was like a 14-hour drive each way. And it's like,
Ooh.
if I'm there's nothing I can do for anyone if I'm halfway between New Jersey and Nashville. So that is like the only time where it's like, all right, I can stop worrying because I'm not in a position to do anything for anybody right now. I can just drive and relax. And I'll like run sets and I listen to a ton of podcasts when I'm driving. And it's like I need to do stuff to like quiet my bad 40-year-old ADHD brain. And it's like if I'm on a plane or something where it's like, hope nothing bad happens because it's completely out of my control. There's like I have to find a balance of being able to not worry about stuff, but then also not just being so anxious. Like I don't like to fly because I think flights are going to get delayed and I'm going to miss a gig or something, and then people will be mad at me. My biggest fear. So
you drive 14 hours. Yeah, exactly.
I would rather drive 14 hours than fly 3. You know, like it's. Because even if the flight's 3 hours, you have to get to the airport early. You got to rent the car or like take a shuttle or something when you get there. It ends up being way longer than a 3-hour flight. And it's like, I'd rather just drive it. You get to be alone in your car, have some quiet time. It's great.
But gas prices. Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I always look and see, I'm like, can I take a train? But the trains here are terrible. They're slow.
What is this, Europe?
They get delayed a lot. And it's like, I mean, part of the, living in the United States, part of it is like the country itself is very large. So I took a train from New Jersey where I live to Chicago, which is about halfway across the country, a little less, but that took a full 24 hours on the train. And then I look at like trains elsewhere in the world that go much faster and, you know, cities are closer together. And it's like, God, that's the dream. I posted a picture of a map of the rail system in the United States the other day with just like an outline of all the cities I could get to just by train. And I'm like, I want this to be my tour map for next year. I don't want to have to fly anywhere. I don't want to drive my car back and forth across the country. I just want to get on a train in New Jersey, ride the train around a couple days, come back. And like, that's what I want to pull off. But once you get to the city, like we don't have light rail in a lot of places, so it's still hard to get around. It is.
You should move to like Sweden or Germany or something. And then
yeah, my goal is next year to do shows in Hungary and other parts of Europe, so I get to experience different transit systems because I'm a nerd. It's like, I just want to ride trains that work, you know? Like that's
like a 2-year-old. Yeah, exactly.
that's my idea of a
That
fun
sounds like-
vacation.
Sounds like the first logical decision being made transportation-wise by you.
Yeah. Oh, you mean driving to 14 hours to Nashville wasn't
Bro,
as
14
good of a
hours,
decision?
Oh my God. Yeah.
It is.
So-
It's such. I mean, travel is such a big part of working as a comedian and trying to find the ways that like make it enjoyable is really helpful. Like I do genuinely like to drive, and I have a tiny fuel efficient car by American standards, so it is usually ends up being cheaper for me to just drive, even with gas prices, than to fly and then rent a car when I get somewhere. I have to. The end of this month, I have shows in like 2,000 miles away from each other, one night apart. So there is no way for me to get there other than to fly. So if I want to, do a gig in Kansas City after my gig in Boston, I got to get on a plane. So like I'll do it. It's just now I've spent since I booked the flight, I'm just concerned they're going to tell me it's canceled and I'm going to miss the show.
Yeah, shit, man. If that happens.
That's true, man. Yeah, with it, I mean, every time you can't expect a plane to leave on time. Every plane.
No,
is like 5 hours
almost
delayed.
every plane I've ever been on has been delayed by at least a little bit.
Why? And it's so expensive.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. My car
Have
always
you ever
leaves
tried
on time.
Ryanair, bro?
Have I tried what?
Ryanair.
No.
What is
Okay,
that?
so this is basically the Europe's favorite airlines and the UK, sorry, in Europe for like cheapest flights. You can possibly pay maximum £20 for a flight.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, like it's cheaper to take the plane than a train if you want to go
Wow.
around Europe. But the only issue is that your safety is not guaranteed. So and
Yeah.
not only that, if you literally check their Instagram account, they promote that. They don't care. They're like, look at all these people complaining about our safety regulations, yet they still use our airlines.
Yeah.
And they're
That's
so proud of it.
Frontier Airlines here in the States would probably be the equivalent of like they're usually pretty cheap. I don't think you get to like pick your seat. I think it is just like bus rules. It's like whoever gets on first. I don't think you get to like bring a bag or it's Mad Max wasteland in airports these days.
You might as well just
Yeah.
stand.
Yeah. I think that's what's coming next. Everyone's just
That's the
you're
future.
holding onto the strap like on a subway. I keep seeing pictures. They have like the double decker seats now where they're like staggered a
Oh,
little
wow.
bit. So you're sitting here and then there's a seat so you don't see their butt, but you're eye to eye with somebody's butt on the other side of that seat.
And then
And
they
it's
let,
like-
let one rip. And then
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
like
end
I
of the
know
flight.
we should be like doing things as efficiently as possible, but like within reason. I don't want to crawl into it's like the cutout shape of a human sitting down is what you're sitting in.
I
And
don't think we
it's-
should give that much power to other humans.
No, it seems way too claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Like
So,
the seats
Glenn-
themselves they're the same. It's not like, oh, if we stagger it, then everybody gets, 8 more inches of legroom. It's just like, oh no, it's still going to be bad. It's just now you have the butt part of someone's seat in your face. And I
Stinks.
hate air
It
travel
stinks,
so
for sure.
much.
Yeah, definitely. Glenn, I noticed a lot of comedians become better at comedy when they become parents. I don't know what's the situation with that. Is it just kids make you funnier or something?
I think I don't know that I want to speak for all comedians. I think it helped me specifically. And I would never give this as advice to anyone who's like, how do I get better at doing comedy? Have kids.
Get a
Like
kid.
that's I mean, my wife and I have 2 kids because we wanted 2 kids, and I love them, and I love being a dad because I wanted to be. If I didn't, oh boy, it would be a nightmare. Like we wanted 2. If we had another one, I'm like, that's too many. It would be too stressful. I think people should be able to have the number that they want, even if the number's 0. My younger brother one time told me he wanted to have 11 kids. Like you're
Whoa.
building an army. That's so many. you can't, you're gonna have to buy a bus, man. Like that's too many kids to have. He's got 4, so he's not even halfway there. But it gave me like focus in a way. The first show that I did after my older daughter, who's 10 now, I was opening for a comedian, Mike Kaplan, who I'd worked with a couple times before. I'm genuinely like a big fan of this guy, so it was the only show that I didn't cancel, because it was like 2 days after my kid was born. I think my wife was still in the we were still in the hospital, and I did the show and came back to the hospital. Like that's how recent it was. And I wanted to do the other shows I canceled, but like I liked working with Mike, so I wanted to do it. But I realized when I got there, it's like, oh, I've not actually thought about this show at all. I don't know what jokes I'm gonna tell. I'd been awake for like 3 days, so I just talked about how tired I was and like talked about the baby, and that set went better than like most of my other sets had been going around that time. And it's like, oh, people like it when I talk about my kid. This is great, because as a new parent, that's all you want to do anyway. So it went from me like sitting at a notebook trying to think like, oh, what will people think is funny, to I just want to talk about this kid anyway. People seem to like it when I do that. So it like gave me kind of like a thing to talk about. And it's, you guys asked at the beginning, like if I always work clean or whatever. And I usually do. A lot of people do that as like a brand. I don't like selling myself as a clean comedian, but I did get called. Somebody recognized me at a venue once, and they're like, "Oh, you're that dad comic." I'm like, "Yep, yeah, I'll be that one. Yeah, that's fine." It's it. I do talk about my kids a lot. Like the new special, there's a good amount of jokes about them on there, and it's one of those things where it's like, I know there's people who complain about it. They're like, oh yeah, all this guy does is talk about his dumb name and his kids. And it's like, well, yeah, because my name is dumb. And if I don't talk about it, people will think it's made up. Like they'll think it's a stage name. And then they shouldn't watch any other comedy that I do, because that would be such a bad decision. Like it's a real name. It's just silly. And then my kids, like, yeah, I do talk about them quite a bit, admittedly, but it's like I spend most of my time with them, and they just started school again, but they've been home almost every day with me for like 3 months. So what else am I going to talk about than the tiny humans that I'm taking care of, who are just around all the time? Like that's where my material comes from, is like whatever I'm doing, kind of. And it's usually hanging out with my wife and kids. I have another special that came out in 2020 that I wrote about. I wrote a bunch of jokes after my younger brother died. And it's because it's like, well, all I'm thinking about is how sad I am. So these are the jokes that I'm going to do. I could ignore it. I could act like it didn't happen and just try to do jokes about my cute kids, but that feels disingenuous. So I don't understand. A lot of comics will like just sit there and think of jokes. They're like, what would an audience like? Or they'll like look at the news and be like, oh, this happened, I should think of a joke about this, but I'm too self-centered to do that. It's like, no, I will just talk about whatever I am doing or into or am thinking about. And I feel like it's not necessarily the best approach, like I feel like I'm limiting my audience a little bit to just people who do just want to hear about me specifically. But I feel like those are the audience members that I'm trying to cultivate. I'm not trying to. Yeah, like I don't want to walk into every fire hall across the country and be able to crush for people who don't care about me. They just want to see a comedian. Like I would rather do a show for 20 people who really want to be there.
Wow.
I feel like that got so far away from your initial question, and I don't remember what it was. I hope I touched on it.
Does that make you funny or no? It's true.
Oh yeah.
Talk about things that make you relatable. Like for
example, I think it gave me focus.
Lebanese. Yeah, we're Lebanese. Me and Saeed, we grew up in Lebanon. I don't know if you know anything about Lebanon. but that's
Not
where
a
we
ton,
grew up.
if
And
I'm being honest.
so the transportation system in Lebanon, we have something called like
Service.
service, which is like a service. You pay like
Service, yeah, it's literally
$1 or two, and you get in like a little sketchy taxi cab, and you might join
Okay.
other. It's like an Uber pool, and it takes you to another part of the city. So that's pretty much how we got around.
Yeah,
for
but
most
there's
of
just certain
our
limitations
lives.
to how far it will go. So obviously the limitations are placed by the driver himself
Sure.
and your ability to negotiate. So if you want,
Okay.
what happens is, let's say it's a 15-minute drive max. Like that's usually the around the point of how much that
But then you can pay
payment
for
will
two
go.
services, so it
Yes.
can take you farther.
So
So do you have to
exactly,
get
if you wanna
out
go
and
further.
find another one?
That usually happens. Yeah, he might even throw you on the like a highway point if he feels like
They
it,
just
you
pull
know?
over when they're done. They just pull over and kick you out.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, it's happened. You know, like they
Okay.
can just kick you out of the cab. It's like, yeah, I'm not going further than this. This is where your point stops. And also, maybe you're going in the opposite direction. You're not going the same direction. And he just tell you, no, fuck off. I remember there's one time. There's this one time I was just like standing on the side of the road waiting for a service, and this one just stops, and the car behind him didn't have enough time to brake, so just
Okay.
full on smashed into him in the back.
Ooh.
So I was just like, oh, I just caused this. So I step back, walk to the side, and then take the next service, like which comes
Well, yeah,
literally
the
10
first one's
seconds later.
broken now. That's you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So this just feels like I don't even know if I want to say a level above. It is just like one level different than hitchhiking, which is just like you're just flagging random
I'll
cars
take
down
that.
and be like, "Hey, can you take me to here?" And they're like,
Yes.
"Well, I'll take you a
Yes.
little bit of the way," and then they just
Yeah.
throw you out of a moving vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes they might not even stop. You know, they want to go that fast.
They'll slow down, but you gotta keep up with them if you're gonna get in.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just like regular cars, or is it like a different type of vehicle?
So it's regular cars that usually would not pass the maintenance check per year.
Exactly. Like no
That's-
AC. Yeah, everything's broken down. Yeah, exactly. Everyone's smoking cigarettes inside the vehicle.
So
Yeah.
it's not like
Sometimes
it's
you
not like a sanctioned service provided by the city. It is just like a kind of a loose
It's
understanding.
Dog eat dog. Yeah, exactly. More.
Yeah,
so
it's like
that.
duct taped transportation.
Okay.
That's that's what it is. Sometimes you might get lucky. You might get a guy who's just starting off and has like a new car, who does also taxi rides on the side. But other than that, you're getting a 75 Mercedes C-class thing. I don't know. That's been used by 3 generations of men smoking,
Yeah.
eating in the car, living in the car as well. So, yeah.
I mean, it sounds adventurous. I'll give you that.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And anyone else can join you too, right? You have random strangers. It's like an Uber pool, so
Yeah.
anyone
Most of
from,
the
like,
time,
That's
I
weirdly
can't
the
say
worst
anything
part
like
of
an
this
old
for
man.
me. Like the rest of this, I'm kind of on board, but when it's like you might be sitting in the back there with a stranger, no, thank you.
oh hell yeah. Like
I'll let a
most of the time
stranger
you'd just
drive
be
me
sitting
around in a
awkwardly
weird
there.
car, but if I have to like bump up against somebody, absolutely not.
Yeah, and the drivers always have like some sort of weird ass stories to share. Like, remember, there's this one guy he said like, when I was your age, I used to go around Europe. I was an engineer, I was a doctor. You know, it's like he's just everything at the same time, and he was
He's just
traveling the world.
It's a
And
real Buckaroo Banzai. He's just out there doing
and now he
everything.
just drives people for like $2 for 15 minutes rides, and you're like,
Yeah.
how did your life end up like this? Like, where
hear
did
that
it
a
all
lot.
go wrong?
from like Uber drivers and stuff here where they're like, "Oh yeah, I came over a few years ago. I used to be a doctor and now." I'm like, "Well, because it's like licensing and stuff is different country to country. Even here in the United States, like states to state, it can be complicated to move and keep a job like that. And it's like, well, do something other than this one. Like this seems like a rough gig. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I use Lyft and Uber and stuff when I'm in cities that I have to fly to, and it's like, well, yeah, because the price to rent cars has like tripled during the pandemic. It used to be like maybe $20 a day, and now it can be like up to 100 sometimes I've seen. It's like, well, that's insane. I'll just pay,
Yeah.
you know, we'll just start getting service over here. I'm like, I'll give
We
somebody
need
a
it.
couple
We gotta
a
start
couple euro to
But
drive
then,
me around.
Glenn, we have something called the van too. So we
Oh,
have
God.
like big white vans. It's even cheaper than a service. So if a service is like $2, this would be like
Okay.
50 cents or so. And yeah, and they're all like decommissioned vans, and they're all like the most sketchy. Like the chair leather is ripped out. You know what I mean? And it's like 30 people
You're just
in a
sitting
van
on
that
just
fits like
pads
10,
and springs.
15 people. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and it always smells. No AC ever. You know, it's like the cheapest thing, but it takes you from one point to another point.
Are the cities
Yeah,
like pretty
exactly.
walkable there?
Yeah,
You
mostly.
could say so.
Most of the coastal ones, I would say, because if you go up to the mountains, it is also walkable, but then it becomes a bit harder since they're all, like uphill. But
Yeah.
the vans, man, like they'll get you anywhere you want. The issue is, it's like
How they get there?
Yeah, it's like Ryanair. They're the Ryanair of land.
Right.
You'll get there, but you don't know.
You'll get
It's not
there.
a guarantee.
You're going to be
safety
pretty
yet.
banged up. Yeah. You might
Yeah,
have to push at
100%.
one point, but
Exactly,
they'll get
because
you
like
there.
each driver thinks he's a Formula One, a retired or NASCAR or a NASCAR retiree driver, and he's just like going crazy with it.
Yeah.
If you're just like driving on the highway casually, you just see a van going faster than you. No matter how fast you're going in your car, the van is gonna go faster. It doesn't matter. He's lifting everyone on his back, and he's just going.
Yeah, I've been in a couple Ubers like that where it's like I'm actually not in a hurry, man. You can take your time. It's like I'm always nervous about getting places late. So if I have to like schedule travel like that, I always do it like as early as possible. So it's like, yeah, I'm planning on getting to the airport like 3 hours early. It's 10 minutes away. You can take your time. We don't need to be doing 90 right now. It's gonna be all right.
So Tickle, what's like the ancestry behind Tickles?
In the UK, there's a place called Tick Hill, and it got run together from there over the years. Like there's a good number of Tickles in England. There's a few here in kind of like the American Northeast, ones that I'm not related to. And then down, I think there's like a couple in North Carolina. There's a show here called Moonshiners, where it is like guys who make illegal alcohol in the woods. And it is, there's a guy on there that everyone calls Tickle. And I didn't watch the show, but then I found out that they call him that because it's his last name. And then my dad did like the genealogical research to find out if we were related to that guy. And we are. I don't know how. I don't remember like to what degree, but somewhere along the lines, I'm related to a TV criminal. And I just did a show. I taped a set in Nashville, Tennessee, with a guy who is on that show, and I didn't know. Like he reached out about me coming to Nashville to do this show, and I wasn't familiar with him before he emailed me. And I got there, and he's like, "Hey, man, are you related to Tickle from Moonshiners?" And I was like, "Actually, yeah." I forget like how, but at some level, yes, I am. He's like, "Oh, I'll let him know next time I see him." I'm like, "Oh, you know Tickle from Moonshiner?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm on Moonshiners." It's the guy's name is Killer Bees. It's Terry Beasley, and he's like a comedian who's like really big in the American South here. But I live pretty far. I'm in New Jersey, so I'm like, oh, he doesn't get up this way a lot. So I'm like, so I don't want to be rude, but I wasn't that familiar with your work before you shot me an email. We had a lot of fun doing the show, and I don't know if he has since seen Tickle, but he's like, I'll tell him. I'll let him know that I met you. I'm like, great. Tell cousin Tickle I said hi.
From the Tick Hills, dude.
Yeah,
London, dude.
from the Tick Hills of England.
Back. Yeah, exactly.
I assume we left because of all the ticks on the hill. That is such a gross name for a place. Like it is. I forget where it is. There was a guy trying to do a comedy festival near there that I was like emailing with back and forth a bit before the pandemic hit about coming over to do the festival and seeing my ancestral homelands. But then everything shut down and I haven't heard from the dude. So I hope he made it through okay. But I couldn't remember what he messaged me on to like even follow up. So it's like, I don't know, maybe he'll email me again someday.
So where exactly is it located in the UK? Is it
I
like
do
near
not.
London, or is like just a random
I
village?
want to say it's near Sherwood Forest, which I only remember because of Robin Hood, but I don't know where that is in England relative to anything. But like when I looked on the map and I saw it was kind of close to that. Um, but also, I mean, like I said, I drive ridiculous distances. My sense of what is near something is ruined, especially because like New Jersey's a pretty small state. So if I ever get asked to do a show in New Jersey, the farthest point I can drive is 3 hours away. So I don't really have to think about can I get to that show. But then I'll do shows in the Midwest where the states are like physically much larger. So I'll be in I perform in Nebraska a lot. So I'll be in, Omaha, and then I'll get asked to do a show somewhere else in Nebraska, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm already going to be in Nebraska. That's fine. And then you find out it's like 9 hours away, and it's like, oh no, I forgot
Yikes.
this is a big one. I gotta.
Yeah, it's a big
Oh
country.
man, I should have said no. Shouldn't have included it. Especially
man.
because once you get past west of Omaha and Nebraska, there's not like a ton going on. It's mostly just fields.
Well,
that-
I found the Tick Hills from the Tick
Oh, yes.
Hill. Yes, exactly. So, Said, where is this in relation to you? To Sheffield.
I think Sheffield is a bit north, right? Yeah,
Oh,
Sheffield
wow.
is north.
So It
I
really
know like
isn't-
names of cities
Oof.
in England,
Yeah.
but not where they are located.
Okay, so it's
All
like it's just in the center of the UK, but it's pretty far from me. I think it would take me to get to Sheffield around 2.5 hours by train, something like that.
And
Okay.
then to get to Tick Hill. Yeah,
Tick Hill, I don't know how to get there, bro. If it's not, it's outside Sheffield, so it's like in a random fuck town nowhere.
You're gonna have
It's
to
like
take a
I'll be
Yeah, it does
climbing-
look like pretty remote.
Yeah, I probably have to ride a donkey or some shit to get there. It's like trotting off.
Yeah, I have to.
Like, oh, okay, we made it to
I
the
mentioned I'm trying to get to Europe next year to do shows because my great grandparents came to the United States from Hungary. So I was looking there, and like I forget the town that my great grandfather came from, but like it is middle of nowhere. It's like oh boy, I don't know if I would be able to get, even if I go like to Hungary, I'm like, I don't know if I'd be able to get there because it's a hard language. I'm trying to learn it, but it's not going
Yeah.
great. And it's like, I don't know. I would have to like just hire someone to bring me specifically because it's like, I don't know that I could navigate in a language I don't know that well enough to get to like this pretty small remote town in rural Hungary. It's like I could, take a flight to Budapest and get around, I think. But once it's like, well, no, now I have to go, 500 kilometers outside of the nearest city. It's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get there.
Man, I'm
We'll
not gonna
see.
lie. Based on the evidence that is being presented, ADHD is running in the family. It's just like all of your ancestors, like you started from the UK and then you're in Budapest and now you're in the
Yeah.
US. It's just like you guys are getting bored of a country. It's like, oh fuck it, let's just go to another place.
Yeah, let's move. Well, that's
Like, I
that's
can-
where I'm at now, where it's like, I don't know. I'm not like necessarily looking to move there, but it's they have I forget the name of the law. Hungary passed the law, I think 2011, where if you have any Hungarian ancestry, like you can get an EU passport basically.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh shit! Nice.
but you have to pass an interview in Hungarian, and it's like it's a famously hard language, and especially for
Yeah.
native English speakers, they say, and it's like, I took French for 4 years in high school, don't speak a word of it. And the problem is like a lot of the language apps and stuff don't even offer Hungarian because it's like no one else is trying to pick this one up. So they're like Babbel is a big language app, and like Rosetta Stone, they're like, no, why would you want to? And it's like, I just got to talk to somebody at an embassy for 20 minutes and then I can like tour in Europe easier. Like that's the goal. And like I would like to go over and like if I can get to the like city, or not city, town that my great grandparents were from, like it would be nice to see that. Go over, like see
Yeah.
Tick Hill. My dad's family is from Ireland, so like to go over and see where they were from like would be nice. But the problem is like I only book travel around being able to do shows because it seems like it's growing up. Like I came from a big family, like we didn't have a ton of money, so like travel was like the height of luxury. Like the idea of just going to a place just to like have a good time seems like so financially irresponsible to me. I know it's not. I know it is like a thing that people love doing. But if I have to go to a place, or if I want to go to a place, I'm like, well, if I book a show there, that's the reason I'm going. And then I'll just go do this other stuff while I'm there. And it's like a way to justify it to myself to like spend the time and money to like go to a place. I mean, there's places in the US, I forget how many states I've performed in here, but it's most of them at this point. And like I've visited a couple that I haven't done shows in, and some of them I'm trying to get to a little harder than others. There's a guy who keeps trying to get me to come to Texas, but like a really out of the way part of it, and it's like, nah, like maybe eventually, or if you pay me a lot more than you're offering. But he's like, do you want to come to like the middle of nowhere in Texas for $200? No, I don't. I'll give you $200 if you stop asking. Like, I'm not coming. Sorry if you're listening to this, Texas friend who keeps trying to get me to come to your remote town. It's probably never going to happen.
But do you ever?
Because I always look
like
at it.
Vacation?
Sorry, go ahead.
You know,
What'd you say?
A vacation. Like a vacation.
Yeah.
No, without a job, just traveling.
Yeah.
Leisure.
My idea of a vacation is just not having anything to do. Like, if I could just stay home for a week with no responsibilities and play video games, like that's
vacation.
Yeah, I can't imagine anything more fun than being in my own home without responsibility. And
So what are you playing if in that situation?
Right now I'm playing Starfield. It just came out. It's kind of a mess, but I really like the mundane parts of it more than I like the actual like missions and stuff. Like there was another game that I really liked called Red Dead Redemption 2 where you're like a cowboy.
I love that game.
And it took me a little while to get into it because I'm like, I don't have any real affinity for like Western stories or anything. But at a certain point, it's just like, oh, this like just the part where you ride a horse from one city to the next city is the best video game I've ever played. It's
right.
You're just riding around beautiful scenery, and then sometimes people jump out and try to murder you, and then you gotta like take them out. But it's like, and then the time when like, oh, can you bring this to this city, or like, can you go talk to that guy? I'm like, I don't care. I gotta ride my horse around. I got work to do. And you just like ride around to remote parts of the map and see what's over there. It's so relaxing. Starfield could do a little bit more of that, I think. But that's the part of it I like, where it's like, oh, there's a star over here I can fly to. Let's see what's over there. And it's usually nothing. Like, that's the problem with the game. It's like, nope, it's just a rock in space. Sorry, man. But I also play the game Dr. Mario competitively.
You make money? What do you mean by competitively?
I've played in tournaments and stuff. I've been paid to play it. I was trying to get the world record a couple of years ago, but while I was doing it, somebody like beat the current record, but then they also maxed out the score that you can have in the game before the counter rolls over. So there's no point anymore in like trying to beat the record. But I have, there's a video on my YouTube channel of me like unofficially beating it because I did it on the emulated version on, I think it was the Wii U at the time instead of like an official NES. So, and you have to like record the whole run or whatever. But it is there's a tournament in Columbus, Ohio that I've played in before, and I will probably go again this year. It's in November. I haven't decided, but it is it's Tetris like because stuff is falling down and you have to like manage it. But the difference is a lot more people know Tetris and like care about it. the other people who like Dr. Mario as much as I do, there's not as many, so it's like a smaller competitive field. Like I'm pretty good at Tetris, but I feel like if I entered a Tetris tournament, I would not be as confident as I am when I go into a Dr. Mario tournament, where like I'm probably not going to win because I've played enough of like the other players to know like who could probably beat me. And it's like I might not win, but I'm going to do pretty good. Like I'll qualify. I'll make it through a couple rounds probably. But
Esports is
Tetris
the
is like there's
future.
so many people who play that game.
You should Twitch stream it. Yeah, exactly.
I've
And
I've considered it, and if I do start streaming on Twitch, I have an account. I just don't really ever use it. It'll be Dr. Mario, but people are like, "Oh, just like stream yourself playing Starfield," and it's like, no, that's what I'm doing to relax. Like so much of my career is how do I turn things into content for other people to enjoy, and it's like playing video games is like the one area that I've not tried to do that with, and it's like I just need something where I don't need to also be entertaining. Plus, like when I'm playing games, I don't want to talk about what I'm doing. Sometimes my kids will walk in and I'll have to like explain something to them, and like I'd rather not do that. I do it because they're my kids and I love them. So if they're like, "Daddy, what's this game about?" I'll tell them, but it's like, it's about me trying to have 20 minutes of quiet time. That's what that's what Starfield's about. And it's the thing where it's like if I could start streaming, people would probably watch, but it's like I don't want to have to try to like make jokes about spaceships. I just want to fly around and see what I can steal to sell for credits. Like that's that's all it is. Do you guys stream games?
No, we haven't had.
No.
Well, we've played some Call of Duty. Again, I like to do it for fun. We play a bunch of games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but mostly for
Dr.
fun
Mario I
and
might stream because even if I'm not like narrating it, I've been told from other people who have watched me play that it is like interesting to see because they're like it keeps looking like you messed up, but then suddenly everything clears off the screen and it's like, yeah, that's why
And
I'm
you
good
could
at
do the
it.
thing where every time someone tips you, you could do like a little catchphrase or something.
Oh,
That
like
like,
the NPC thing that was
oh,
going around on TikTok.
yeah,
Yeah. You
exactly.
give me a little hot dog and I go, "Ooh, yummy hot
Oh,
dog." Like that's
yummy hot dog.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the other thing is like I've done it. I've tried it a couple of times. I think I was trying to stream when I started playing Elden Ring, and then that's when I realized it's like, oh, I don't want to be on camera for this. And it's like,
Screaming. Yeah.
yeah, it's like I just either get really frustrated or it's like a really kind of like boring part where I'm just walking around, and it's like, yeah, I just want to play the game. And it's
Yeah.
a couple people would watch and there would be comments that I'm not reading because I'm focused on the game. And then they leave because they're like, oh, I guess you're not answering. I'm like, yeah, I'm not. I'm trying to fight monsters with a samurai sword in the woods. Like that's my focus right now. Sorry, audience. It's not you. If you want me to pay attention to you, come to a stand-up show. Don't watch me play video games online like a creep.
Yeah, it's also I don't stream as well. I just play games as well for fun. But there's this one game. It's called. I mean, it originally started as a kids game. It's called Among Us, and I enjoy it
Yeah.
because I like analyzing people's behaviors.
See,
And
I've seen a couple streams of that where it's like a group of friends are playing.
yeah,
And if it was like I forget how, if it's like the three of us playing Among Us, like that would be fun to watch. And like
100%.
yeah, like that would be fun to do. But if it's just like my kid has played it, but I don't know enough other people who are around at the same time, and it's like, well, I don't want to just play it with strangers. Like that's not fun to me. Like even
Yeah,
most online games, it's like there's Red Dead Redemption Online, which I tried to play, but it's like
Mhm.
it's a thousand random internet strangers just ruining my good time. Essentially, it's like I just want to ride a horse around. That's stop trying to talk to me.
yeah. For me, I just like running my little social experiments on random strangers, see their behaviors, their actions, how they react to being called out, um, react to if if they're lying, just
Yeah,
studying patterns and stuff like that. I find that very interesting for me because then I can apply it in the real life, in the real world. Because like the people that I play with are usually in their early 20s and even mid 20s. There's some in their 30s as well. Like that's that's a bit interesting, just like to find someone at that age still wanting to hang out with people younger than him.
Yeah,
It's
there's
not. It's not
there's
that
another
simple.
game
There's
like
a law
that.
against it. Yes, yeah, I know. There's a law.
There's a
against
game
it.
called Fall Guys. Have you guys played that one?
Oh, I love that game.
I've
My
watched
my daughter,
clips of it.
a friend of mine was streaming games during the pandemic, and he was playing that with his kids a lot. So I'm like, my daughter watched the stream of my friend one day, and she's like, "What's that game? That looks fun because it's bright and colorful." So we started playing that together, and it's like, yeah, these are all probably other 12-year-olds. This is not likely a bunch of other 40-year-old dads hanging out. But I would play that one with my kid a lot, and one's again it's like it's fun when I'm playing with my kid more than just trying to beat random internet strangers in like a silly obstacle course game. So I always when I was in college, we would all like play Halo together, but it was like before online. It was just you had 4 controllers hooked up to the Xbox in somebody's dorm room. That was really fun. And then I tried to play Halo Infinite online, and it was just like, oh, these are all people who like take this game a lot more seriously than me. You just get murdered instantly, and it's like, well, that's not fun. Like I would rather do like just a solo mission or local co-op with like people that I know rather than just being online with 1,000 strangers. Which I feel like that's what dates me as a gamer.
Ali, you remember those days when we used to just like meet up at your house or one of our other friends' house and just take turns playing FIFA? And then
that's the
like that's exactly what happened. I remember
Old
there was
school.
I remember there was this one day where one of our friends, so we stayed up playing till I don't know 2 a.m. or something, and one of our friends just kept ripping out these random farts, man, out of nowhere. He just kept farting all night. And I literally, at one point, I just started counting them because there were so many. And I think I counted maybe 25 farts within the span of 2 hours. I was like, bro, are you getting the ammunition?
I think the average is 14 a day.
Oh.
14 a day? Man,
yeah.
I'm barely doing
25
4.
in 2 hours is a lot.
In the bathroom.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, no, I have like a phobia of farting in public after watching... After watching, what's it called? I think it was the movie called When Harry Met when Polly or something like that. It had
When
like
Harry
Ben
Met
Stiller.
Sally?
Not Harry
Oh,
Met
no.
Sally. No, there was something Polly. It's Jennifer Aniston and Ben Stiller, I think.
Oh, Along Came Polly?
Something like that, yeah.
I think.
And he was.
I think I know what one
friend.
you're talking about.
Yeah, there was this one scene where they're like in an art exhibition, and he was talking to his friend, and his friend was complaining about having to fart.
Oh, yeah.
At some point, he's like, "Oh shit, I think I sharted," and ever since then, it's just been stuck in my head. It's like I'm never gonna fart in public, so I always
'Cause you
fart
might
in the
shart.
bathroom.
Was that Philip Seymour
exactly.
Hoffman? I think that was his friend in the movie.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have this random trauma because of this one movie scene.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to watch that movie a lot because I worked at a video store in college when it came out on tape, and my boss would just always put it in. And I remember that scene pretty vividly because I think I remember I'm almost positive it was Philip Seymour Hoffman because it's like, why is he in this? Like, why? He was like one of the great actors of his time, and I'm like, not to take anything away from Ben Stiller or Jennifer Aniston or anybody who worked on the fine film Along Came Polly, but I'm like, this feels a little beneath Philip Seymour Hoffman at this point, because it's just like a silly rom-com, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like he's doing like some of the best work of anybody. Why is he talking about sharding his pants in this movie?
To be honest, he's such a good actor. He pulled it off, and it sounded really funny. As
Oh,
well.
I'm sure he was great in it. Yeah, it's just I don't know why he did it more than why they cast him. You cast him because he's great, but
yeah,
I don't know. because
To be
that was
honest,
like
it
I
kind
think
of.
around the
think
same
this is
time he was doing
sustainable.
like Synecdoche, New York and stuff, where it's like
Right, exactly. Very
Yeah.
much
highbrow
more
stuff.
high-minded stuff. It might have just been fun. Like maybe he was friends with Ben Stiller and they just wanted to hang out. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know
for sure.
people's reasons for things.
And Ali, what are your
Well,
reasons for things?
for what?
Explain yourself.
Explain.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I
Give
grew
us.
up in Lebanon. You know, I do what I like to do. I learned everything. You want to hear my first joke, Glenn? The
I
first
would
joke I
love to.
ever wrote? Yeah, I was like 11. I was at the Nike store, and then the Nike slogan at the time was "Do the impossible." And so I was trying to get some shoes, but these shoes were so overpriced, and I was like, "What's impossible is buying any of these shoes." Yeah.
That pause in the end.
You burned him
Thank
good. You showed Nike. You got him.
That was my first joke. Yeah, exactly.
I
You know, it's
remember.
hard doing clean comedy.
Yeah, I remember the first joke I think I got in trouble for in school. It was in third grade in music class. We were learning the keyboard, but there was one more student in the class than there were keyboards. So my friend Dave had to share the keyboard with the teacher, and they were like we had headphones, so it wasn't just 20. You didn't have to listen to 28-year-olds badly play a song on the keyboard. And the teacher and my friend Dave were like sharing the headphones, so like their heads were really close together. And I turned to my friend and I said, "It looks like Dave and the music teacher are making out." And he goes, "What?" He didn't hear it because I had headphones on. And then I yelled it. I go, "It looks like Dave and the teacher are making out." And nobody else heard it because they all had headphones on except for the teacher, who's only got one thing in because she's sharing it with the kid. And she's like, "What?" And I ended up getting detention. And it's like, I mean, in my defense, it did kind of look like you guys were making out. Like I
No, for
wasn't
sure.
wrong is the thing. It was, I probably shouldn't have yelled it. You're right. But you're going to tell me it didn't look like you guys were making out?
You're kids, man. You're learning.
I think she was
Mhm.
afraid
Yeah.
that she might catch a case or something.
Yeah.
You know, so I work at different schools, and there's this one kid I once saw that every day during the lunch cafeteria, he'd count down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and he'd allowed the N word pretty much. And he was just some like white dude. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
What?
but then he would do it, but not say the N word sometimes. Like he'd do it, and only every once in a while he would say the N word.
Oh, it's
But
like
it
You
was
got to
always
build that
like
tension.
every
Yeah.
day, yeah. And you do like a really like slow dramatic countdown, like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Yeah. When you
Remember,
said the countdown, I wasn't
close
sure if
call.
this was something he was doing or if it was just a thing in schools
He would
there.
yell it out
but I
loud.
didn't-
Yeah, he would count down like he's, announcing like a rocket flight, like saying it out loud. And then he would count down to 0, and it would be, the whole time we're anticipating whether he's gonna say the
Yeah.
N word out loud or no. You know?
And then what
Can you
happened?
picture Elon Musk doing that?
Yeah. Oh, any day now. It's just going to be. He's going to do it over day. It's going to be over 10 days. The first day he's just going to type 10. The next day is going to be 9. And then a week and a half later it finally pays off.
I mean, the way he changed the logo from the Twitter to the X. I mean, it
He's
looks
getting
like he's gonna.
naughty.
Yeah. He looks like he's doing some shady stuff over there.
Yeah. It's such a mess. I left the day he took over. And I don't regret it at all. And it was at the time, I think like that was, oh no, I think my TikTok following was bigger, but like I've been on Twitter like since it started, like a really long time. And then when I deactivated it, it gave me the option. They're like, you can just delete this forever now, or if you want, we can leave an option where you can come back within a year and like just get your account back the way it was. And I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no way he's gonna last a year. Yeah, let's do that one just to see what happens first. And he's held on longer than I thought he would.
Wow.
But I'm like, I don't know. It's just my account self-destructs a year after he took over. So I think that's coming up soon. I forget exactly when it was, but I don't know.
He's like
None
10,
of the
9,
replacements.
8.
Yeah.
He just on that day he just counts.
Yeah, I haven't checked back in, but I'm sure they'll post about, be like, oh yeah, Elon has been in control of Twitter for a year. And it's like, well, I guess I'm never going back. I guess my account's gone forever now.
Damn.
Wow. Well, Saeed, what do you got to say about Glen Tickle? I think the only thing clean about Glen Tickle is his comedy. To be honest.
Yeah. He's got. I think he's as shady as Elon Musk's countdowns.
Yeah. I say it in the new special. I'm like, I come across as a nice guy. I think it's the dimples. Like they just throw people off. I'm like, don't cross me, internet.
Yeah,
I'm petty.
You're
I'll
just
come
like
for
trying
you.
to pass off as like an innocent gamer, nerd type.
Yeah.
But deep down, you've got like that dark sense of humor.
Yeah, it is.
It's like
I
Bill
don't know.
Cosby.
It's funny when
no.
bad things happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa, Bill
It's-
Cosby is an outrageous comparison, bro.
Yeah. God, he's going. I heard he's going to be going on tour again.
Woo!
And it's like,
Oh
that is
my
insane
God.
for a number of reasons, but like not the least of which is he's so old.
Yeah.
Before like the big scandal broke with him, I was covering South by Southwest in Austin for a writing job I had, and he was doing a show. And like I said, this was before I knew anything about what a creepy is. But it's like, oh, I'm going to try to get to the Cosby Show. But I left the event I was covering, and then the line was like literally a mile long to get into the
Wow.
like 100-seat room he was doing. It's like, I guess I'm not going to see him. And then it was like a year later was when like Hannibal Buress started talking about Cosby on stage, and everyone realized what a creep he was. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm glad I didn't go see him pretty recently. But
Missed out.
he's so old. How's he gonna tour physically when you're like 100 and a monster? Like, just
That's
stay
what you
home.
gotta train for, Glenn. Yeah, exactly. That's what you gotta train for, to get be 100.
Yeah,
travel
I'm
around
40,
Europe.
and there's times where it's like I want to sit down. Like literally, the most physically demanding part of my job is I have to stand for the hour
Stand
that I'm
up.
talking, and
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
sometimes I just want to like take a seat. And it's yeah.
Take a seat, Glenn. You know
I'll
what?
try.
This has been an hour time. Glenn, where can people find out more about you and your comedy, and what are you here?
Sure. You can find me. The username is just at Glen Tickle with one N on all social
and
media
only.
except for Twitter. And my new special, Glen Tickle Against the World Crime League, will be out on YouTube this Friday. I don't know when this was coming
Nice.
out, but the September
Yeah,
15th,
that's
it'll
so cool.
be up for free. You can watch it there.
Let's do it. Saeed?
And thank you guys for all watching A2 the show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Glen Tickle has been with us on this podcast, and if you guys enjoy just as much as we do, you know what to do. Salute to the
Thanks for
camera,
having me,
and
guys.
then with that
Oh,
cheers.
we'll salute.
Yeah.
We're out
Oh.
of here.